What the hell do I know? I'm just JB, middle-aged dad with ADD. Candid combos, jokes so lame, jabronis pulling a poker face. Just a couple of dudes with ADD. What the hell do I know? With JB.
We're here, baby. True. It is another episode. I am so excited to be here. I wore my shirt in honor of our friend Brooks, who we just had a few episodes ago.
It's a good-looking shirt.
And it is a great shirt. We were so deep and so wide. It was a deep and wide episode. And it was so good. We laughed, we cried, we laughed again. And I brought on this shirt. He wanted to give it to us on set, but there was so much going on. I might have used it as a Kleenex or something. It was so crazy that episode. In fact, if you haven't watched it, I encourage you to go back. We talk about grief. I think that's episode 29. Yeah. So I definitely encourage you to go back. But this is his tagline: is love Jesus and be nice to people, which is really kind of what Jesus said. Those of you that don't know, he said, of course, love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, and love others as yourself. I think Brooks just modernized and said, look, maybe we just be nice to people. I'm not trying to. We don't have to break the bank here all the time. But he's taglined this for like 20 years. As long as I've known Brooks, he's ended every email with "love Jesus and be nice to people."
No,
and I'm
awesome.
like, and so he finally got his own shirt, and I'm just repping it, baby. But hey, welcome to our studio. Welcome to another episode. Welcome to the Floors.com studio. That's FLOORZZ.com. Floors.com is your one-stop shop for your next flooring or wall covering, remodel, or new build. Tell them the jabronis sent you, and they will take care of you.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, maybe. We'll see. We don't know. I mean,
is that a line item on when you order online?
Jabronis? Well, we don't have
jabronis. Is that the code?
Yes, in comments.
Jabronis in the code?
In comments, if you hit jabroni, then your order will most likely come to you right.
It'll get filled.
Oh, yeah. Yes, it will get filled.
Extra care of the shipping.
And it will. I don't know. I've got to talk to Mike. He probably could throw in something. For a discount for the jabroni. I just want you to say the jabroni sent you, so that way, when I walk in here, it's nice when they're like, "Hey, by the way, we got an order from the jabronis."
Oh, you're going to hear about it.
I love it. I do occasionally. It comes in. Yeah.
Nice.
So it's good. And by the way, today's guest is Jason. Now, I want to get your last name. I'm the worst at last names.
Yes, you are.
I am absolutely the worst. Juice gives me such a hard time, rightfully so.
I mean,
rightfully. If you've watched this show, but it's Jason, I want to say Shinholster.
You're hooked on phonics.
Oh, you got it. Nice.
That's a cool name.
First shot.
Yes.
Name.
It is a good lesson.
Shinholster. Yeah.
It's like a
So
holster
good.
on your shin for
It basically is that.
It's a tattoo, yeah.
Yeah, it is, right?
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Oh, and I'm imagining you may have one, but I feel like an old English script with
So it's the origin of it's German.
Yeah,
right?
makes sense.
Mine's Hillenberg.
It feels like
sounds very German to me.
No, it feels like Shinholster.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like.
Depends on what part of the country you're in, on what accent, how strong your German accent is, but
that's why there used to be this German soccer player, great German soccer player. I think it's Schweinsteiger or something. I always loved how they said Schweinsteiger.
Fun name to say.
That's an angry name. Name's angry.
Yeah, German is a harsh language.
Yeah.
It's that Germanic language is not like Latin or Italian, which is Italian, like think piano, slowly. German is like Shinholster. But no, I'm so excited because you have quite the story to tell. I'm excited about bringing you in, Jason Shinholster.
So we kick Brandon off, so it's just all Jason.
It's kind of weird,
right? Jason, Brandon,
and me.
This is the second time we've had three. There's a popular name around our era.
I was going to say, what was in the water
it was
back
number
then?
one. It was like the number one name. My mother, when she named me,
late 70s.
Right, late 70s, mid to late 70s was massive for Jason.
Yeah, 70 what?
79.
I was 77. We both were. That's right.
That's
we were
right,
both
we're the same
77.
age. Yep.
And my mother told me nobody was named Jason. I was like, well, you and everybody else on the planet
same time.
at the same time decided. But that happens, I think, if you look at a 5-year period in every decade, I think you're going to find a girl's name and a guy's name that's going to be, the most common.
The most popular,
and that person is frustrated in class that everybody, wherever he goes. And what's worse is there is a Jason Becker as well online. He was a famous guitarist that ended up having ALS, and so and he grabbed all the JasonBecker.coms before I did.
No more .coms.
Right. I'm like not even org, I don't think. I think I'd be like .biz or something, something crazy.
JAYSON, like a French version, like Jason.
So actually, when I was in elementary school and I heard you could do that, I was like, we could change this
right now.
We could change this now. Like if my mom was going to be, if she was going to go with the popular name, she could have at least put a spin on it and changed the spelling.
Right?
Exactly. That's what I was.
So that way you can correct somebody. You're like, it's Jason, but
for show,
it's got a Y in it.
Yeah, it's got a Y, dude.
Jason with a Y.
I was named after a guy in the TV Guide. There was nobody named Brandon in 1977.
I don't remember a lot of Brandons
with his name. Now they're everywhere.
Well, now they make it smarter.
There's Asher and Ann.
It's Braden. Now it's Braden.
They changed it up. Braden.
Depends on how bad your handwriting is.
That's exactly right. Man. That's exactly. But that's you funny. Are with White Ox Remodeling. We're gonna dive into a little bit of remodeling later on in the show. But I know it's White Ox Remodeling. We'll throw up. It's whiteoxremodeling.biz, right? Or is it?
I don't know. What is it? I think it
texted it to me. No,
I'll tell you.
Well, again.
Juice, tell me what it is. Again, this is why we have Juice here.
Well, yeah, my computer's dead. Again, but yeah, I got it.
Tell me what it is.
.biz. You had it right.
So it's whiteoxremodeling.biz?
whiteoxconstruction.biz.
Okay, good. So I want to, for our listeners, not just the video people, the listeners, whiteoxconstruction.biz. So check them out. You also find you on Facebook. I know you can go there, White Ox Remodeling or White Ox Construction, either one. And
our .com was taken too.
Yes, of course. But who would have, well, actually, of course, White Ox Construction, where are they at? Like in Missouri?
No. So, funny story. Mike.
Yes.
Your floors.com guy.
Yes, my floors.com guy. That's
Episode 9.
That's how I know you. Is
that's
through
right.
Mike.
That's right.
Yep, mutual friend.
So, when Mike and I met probably 7 or 8 years ago, he needed the building next door.
Yes.
The renovation flooring building.
Where that his other flooring company is.
Right. So, he just had the top floor at that point in time.
That's right. And
so he called me. We didn't know each other. We met that day, and he says, "Hey, I'm looking to expand. I want to move downstairs." So at the time, there was a guy that had a golf cart or golf ball. Remember the golf ball guy?
Yeah, it was used clubs. It was. That guy been here for
a long time.
Ever. Yeah. Yes.
So we went in and remodeled downstairs, and that's when Mike and I's friendship kind of got started.
Yeah.
And him and I hit it off. And
now, when you say we remodeled, I'm assuming, knowing Mike.
No.
We remodeled.
Yeah, we as not him and I.
Yes, you and your team.
We as me and us.
Yes. I want to make sure because I'm
make sure
thinking
we're using
Mike
the right pronouns.
Mike.
He signed a check.
Mike ain't swinging the sledgehammer.
He watched.
He did own.
He checked in.
He did own some tools. He brought his tools in, and we used them. But I guess when we met, Mike saw something that I hadn't seen yet. So he quickly went upstairs, searched, noticed I didn't have any .com. I had nothing. Right.
Okay.
So Mike went and bought all of them.
Nice. What a dude, man. Come on.
So about 6 weeks later, we're at lunch one day, and he goes, "Hey, I noticed you don't have any domain names. So whenever you're ready, I have them." And I think it was
leverage, baby.
Listen, I think it was a genuine, kind-hearted move.
Right.
Hey, before this happens to you, I'm going to get them.
Yeah.
Okay, fast forward about 6 to 9 months ago.
Okay.
One of my clients, we're remodeling her house, and she said, "Hey, I wanted to give you a gift." So I went to go and buy your .com, and somebody already owned it. She said, so I reached out to them and tried to purchase it.
Right.
But they wanted $1 million for it.
Wow.
So I quickly texted him and I said, "Hey,
you said, is this you, Mike?"
Yeah, well, I knew it was him.
Oh, he has the .com.
He does have the .com.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So she reached out to try to buy it. She didn't know that I knew who the owner was.
Uh-huh.
So she tried to buy it, and she said, yeah, they're asking $1 million.
Okay.
Oh, my gosh.
She's like, so that's out.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I think I can get you a better deal on that. What are you willing to spend? So, yeah, that's our .com joke.
So that's how you got .com back, huh?
Well, we got .com.
You got
he's
them
got
all.
.org. He's got all of them. So the only one that was left.
Oh, my goodness.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
Those are the friends I have.
Yeah.
Hey, what's you want to sell it to you for?
$1 million.
Well, the rumor is, based on him and I's conversation, is that it's free.
Oh, yeah.
I just need to pay for all the back charges on all the renewals and all that.
All the renewals, yeah.
But when we built the website and I said, hey, by the way, you can send that .com access over.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I'm going to hold on to it. You just
I like
do this.
it, baby. I
We'll
like
divert
it, baby. That's so
You'll
good.
log in, but
That's
it'll
so
send you
good.
over here. And I'm sure there's probably a big Floors logo on it when you log in and then it clicks into something else. But
He's good with that stuff.
He's been doing that for years. I bet he spends
Has he been grabbing websites like that for
years?
years?
All the time.
It's called
like a hobby.
Cyber squad.
Really?
it is.
He's probably spends
is.
thousands a year doing that.
I didn't realize that.
I had it
I
happen.
didn't know he was
the
doing
first times I
that.
met him, we talked about it.
Really?
wild.
So I knew a guy down in.
He probably got
the guy.
JasonBecker.com, honestly.
I know the JasonBecker.com guy. Now the and even in posterity, whenever he succumbs to ALS, I'll never get that .com. But there was a guy down. We went on vacation in one of the islands in the Caribbean, and this guy was on a boat, and that's what he did. He bought these websites, and anything that he felt like was trending, he started grabbing. Right. And you're right, because then it just sits there, and you just buy them, and at some point somebody says,
Somebody's going to come along.
And there's a price for it. You can be in the tens of thousands to, hundreds of thousands.
I wonder if somebody owns 38podcast.com.
They do now. They do now.
Well, you do now. Before this comes out.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
You're exactly right. Good
that's
call.
just random stuff.
Yeah, that's the random stuff.
Southpaw and podcast.
That's right.
Anything.
That's right.
Yo. TruNorth Pest Control. They are all over Central Florida, Georgia, and they just moved here to the Emerald Coast. I just switched my service over to them. You got to check them out. Tell them JB sent you. They'll take care of you. We are a bug-free podcast because of them. TruNorth Pest Control. Now back to the show.
So it is now time. Now it is finally time to play What the Hell Do I Know with Jason Shinholster. So it's 7 questions, rapid succession. You can pass if you want to pass. No gotcha questions.
Okay.
You just answer them as fast as you want to go.
Okay.
I've only had one person fail. Probably should have failed a couple other people, but on their speed. But hit the clock. Let's put the clock on. Here we go. This is 7 questions. We got What the Hell Do I Know with Jason Shinholster. Question number 1: Did you ever have a motorcycle?
Yes.
It felt like it. You look like a motorcycle guy. What kind of motorcycle?
A Harley.
Harley, of course. Yeah. What kind?
Is there
of
any
Harley?
other kind?
No, right. What kind of Harley though?
It was a Road King.
Yeah,
I've owned a few, but that's the one I currently own.
I felt like that was an absolute yes. Number 2: Are you an adrenaline junkie? And if so, like what are the bungee, zip lines, parachute? Where are you at?
I'm an adrenaline junkie, but I'm not jumping out of planes or doing bungee stuff like that. I like to go fast.
So you like to go fast. So more in the driving. Have you done any of the driving experiences and stuff like that?
Yeah. So actually, cool thing. My wife took me to. I drove Talladega last year.
Nice.
So I think
very cool.
The fastest they would let me go that day.
Yeah.
Was 168.
It's pretty fast.
Which is cooking.
It's pretty fast.
You're hanging on.
I think I did 120, 130 on a straightaway on a road course in Vegas.
Nice.
In like a McLaren or something like that.
Sweet.
And that was fun.
Yeah.
But so number 3, wings, boneless or bone
in, flat.
Of course, the only way they're not otherwise. Number 4. Otherwise, they're just chicken tenders. Number 4, favorite restaurant here on the Emerald Coast.
Ooh, I'd have to say right now, I frequent Shunk Gully.
Yeah, Shunk's good.
The most.
Dre is amazing. GM, shout out Dre. We play poker with him.
Yeah. No, the grouper there, I'm a fish guy.
Yeah, the grouper's solid. The grouper's solid there, for sure. That's a good one. What was your first car?
Ooh, this is a good one. I had I forget what year it was, an 89 Chevy Beretta.
Oh, that was my second car.
Was it?
Yes, dude.
89?
89 Chevy Beretta. That's crazy. Mine was white.
Black.
Okay.
And red.
Okay. And red.
Yeah. Mine was white and red.
It was black with a red stripe.
Yep.
So, what most famous person you know?
Ooh. Most famous person I know.
I know a couple of the people you know, and you might have to say their names.
You just said one.
Yeah, Russell Brand's one. Yeah. I'd tell you my favorite person to have that I have a relationship with, like we're close, would be Johnny Colt.
Right. And he's from the band
Johnny was the bass player for the Black Crows.
Right. And then he joined.
Then he left there. He played with Train for a little while. That's right. But you're thinking of Leonard Skinner.
That's who I'm thinking about, Leonard Skinner.
Johnny spent
the last bit of Leonard Skinner.
Him. We actually talked this morning. So we talk on a regular basis. Yeah.
I knew you guys were friends. He taught some of my kids in school.
Ohana, right? Ohana. Didn't your daughter or somebody go to Ohana?
All three of my kids went to Ohana.
Yeah.
And I know my youngest, he taught her.
Yeah.
Sophia. So for sure.
Johnny's amazing.
Crazy. Yeah, absolutely.
I have a lot of love for him.
If the four of us were to run a 25-yard race, because we're old, so I just did 25 yards.
Yeah.
Rank us all in order of fastest to slowest.
I'm the slowest. I'll just say.
I'll take one for the team. I don't know.
He's been here for the Lions chasing me.
Hey, this is Jason. You're messing up Jason's time.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say I would win.
Okay. I like it.
Juice would be second.
I feel really good about that one.
Third.
You would be third. And then
Money. B-Money. Down to fourth, yeah.
B-Money.
I feel like that's good. I think he would give me a run for his money because I was told by a doctor I can't run.
Really?
I've lost all the cartilage in my knees.
Oh well, you got to give those disclaimers on the front end.
I understand. I just wanted to see where you were.
You can push him down.
Hey, two good races actually.
It would be right. Juice would crush me for sure. Yeah. Now, and by the way, you are now off the hot seat. Great job. Yeah, you nailed it. You did great. Those are some fun questions. I wanted to throw in something different. Sometimes I feel like our hot seats have been all the answers to people's questions to get their password. Yeah, like if you were scamming, if they were scamming,
what's the first car?
Right. What's your first?
It's all their bank questions.
What's your favorite color? Or
did you go to Regions? Did you go to Regions this morning and go? What's all the security questions?
Mother's maiden's name.
Mother's maiden name.
Like what's your kid's boy?
Yes, we should totally throw that out. That'd be so good. Well, but no, this has been so. Honestly, I'm honored to have you here, and I wanted to see if you could kind of walk us through your testimony. That's why I wanted you to be here. We got a lot of stuff to cover, but I wanted to see if you could walk us through your testimony. Kind of, in other words, like when you tell others your story, where does it start, and how do we get here?
Yeah, for the sake of time.
Yeah.
I grew up in a small town called Titusville. Titusville, Florida is directly across from Cape Canaveral.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right. So my parents.
I'm guessing you were a Gator fan.
Yeah,
of course. That's like Gator.
That's
country.
Why it's been hard. It's been hard to sit here with that Georgia helmet.
You're doing good.
Fair enough. I have good friends that are Gators. They prove to me that not all Gator fans wear jean shorts. So now I understand that.
That's fair. That's fair.
But hey, the hatred's real. But y'all are good folk down there doing some good stuff. So for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's funny because everybody wants to come to Gainesville when they need their life saved.
Hey,
right?
Well, you did have the Tim Tebow guy.
Yeah, we did have him. We did have him.
You also had Aaron Hernandez, but
I tell people, the University of Florida had a football team before Tim Tebow.
Yes. Yeah, that's right.
They did.
A lot of people don't remember.
Hey, we had
a national championship before that.
Every team has skeletons in their closet.
That's right.
And there's no 96 for their national championship.
That's right. So Titusville, Florida.
Titusville, man, there's no reason, and I say this a lot, there's no reason my life should have went the direction that it went based on everybody always goes back to your childhood. I had a great childhood. Was active, athletic, played sports, did all those things. Both parents were present in the house. I had two step brothers. We all three of us had the same dad. So my mom was my biological mom. She raised my brothers like they were her kids. She raised them when they were 3 and 1 when my dad met her.
Right.
But my mom, being a Christian, she wanted her son, only kid, biologically. I think she wanted her son to have a good education. So my mom afforded for me to go to a private school. Right. And I grew up in that church atmosphere, right? So I had to be at chapel. I had to wear a tie and closed toe. We weren't in the uniforms. We weren't Catholic, but it was still a private school. And, but I played sports with public school kids, right? And I had 2 older brothers that had a really big influence in my life, being 11 and 9 years older than me. And they didn't go to church. Yeah. Right? They didn't go to private school. They went to a public school. And they looked like they were having a lot more fun than I was, right?
They were.
They were. Yeah. So, growing up, I'd say, when I got into high school, started playing football, excelled and all that, my brothers were always out drinking and partying. And that's what that's what I was attracted to at the time. And so that's what we did. I did that all through high school and, got a scholarship to play football in college. And that was going to be my first geographical, like, I'm going to get it together. Sure. I'm going to stop screwing up, stop smoking weed, stop drinking, stop doing this, stop doing that. And so when I went to college, they put me in the room, my roommate. So I came in as a freshman wide receiver, and they put me in a room with a 5th-year senior, preseason All-American
show you the ropes.
Quarterback. Yeah, he's going to help me.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't have to go to class. And of course, I'm going to go with the path of least resistance, you know? So I was like, okay, we're athletes. We don't have to we don't have to go to class. They'll figure out a way. Because my high school, not to get into the details of it, but my high school career was just that.
Yeah, so they kind of babied the football team a little bit.
It was ridiculous. Like my transcripts my senior year when I graduated, I think the lady that did this has passed, so I'll tell this story now. But the transcripts, because I wanted to go to Florida. Right? Chris Doring, remember him?
Well, he's an analyst now.
Yeah. Well, he had walked on at the University of Florida and got a scholarship. Right. And that was inspiring to me because we were similar. Like I was white, I was fast.
Right. Yeah.
So I was like, man, if he can do it, I can do it.
Right.
But I didn't have the grades.
Yeah.
Right. And in the state of Florida, you have to have taken certain classes in high school to get accepted to a Florida state like a state of Florida college. Right. So I came to my dean my senior year and I said, hey, I'm applying for these schools, but my guidance counselor hasn't signed me up. I didn't know all of this. Yeah. And she's like, oh, sweetheart, it'll be fine. And sure enough, man, she showed up. I had a 3.8 grade point average. Mm-hmm. The only thing that she couldn't forge for me was the SAT and the SAT.
Yeah.
So she's like, honey, you got to take these tests and you got to take them as much as you can because they take an average.
That's right.
So I did, man. I signed up for that ACT and SAT every chance I got, but I still did not, when I put the application in, still denied, come to a junior college, maybe you can get in.
Right.
That wasn't, I want things now. So I was like, well, I can play right now, so I'll go here. Yeah. Went away, unsupervised, very immature.
Yeah. That's our most 18-year-old.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Fell back into the same lifestyle, but and then of course, kind of flunked out, was asked to take time off because they're like, you're not going to school. So you can't play sports if you're not going to do this. And that was not like my high school experience. So it got too hard. And I was like, well, I'll go back home and work.
Yeah.
So my uncle had a construction company at the time and I was making like $15 an hour at 18 years old. And I thought I was crushing it. So I was like, why would I go to school? Because there's guys graduating with degrees back in 95 that weren't making $15 an hour.
That's a lot. I was making like $4.75 at the golf course.
I was working at McDonald's for like $5.25
or something.
Right.
So
those 15 is a lot.
That was a lot of money.
When I was in high school, and we were in high school at the same time. I mean, it was $4.25.
Yeah, I remember working at one point. It was $4.25.
Yeah. So, having this perspective that you have at that young age, I thought, I'm making adult money. Yeah. I have an adult job.
Yeah.
I wanted adult things, right?
Yeah.
I was always enamored with stuff. And I thought, well, in the family unit that I grew up in, my dad, not that he put an emphasis on money, but my dad worked very hard. My mom worked very hard.
Right.
We had a nice house, nice cars.
Sure.
We weren't spoiled.
Yeah.
Like my dad made sure, like, you're going to work, you're paying your part, you're doing all that.
Humility, hard work,
100%,
all those things.
all the way, across the board. And we still, like my brothers and I, we still have that same work ethic.
Right.
Today is why where we're at. But I don't know, man. I don't know how I got into what I got into. But what I did find, I got a job working out at the Space Center. I was actually at 20 years old. I was putting tile on the bottom of the space shuttle.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Which was a super cool job.
Right. And paying really well, working with NASA.
Yeah. And obviously, once you're the
ecosystem of that space world,
once you're in there,
right,
it's hard to get out of there.
There's a few ways, right?
Well, there is a few ways.
Tell us.
Yeah, there definitely are a few ways. Your language and the things that you choose to talk about, is one of them.
Aliens? What are you talking about, aliens?
Nobody says that word.
No. And the Earth's round, by the way.
Right.
And we did land on the moon.
Yes.
But no, man, I got carried away one day in a training class and said some things that were offensive to a person that was in there. And I got a visit from Human Resources. Mm-hmm. And this was right about the time that the whole sexual harassment thing was coming out. And all I did was I said the F word in a training class. Oh. And this girl found it offensive.
Oh, wow.
She went back and told her supervisor that, these guys, it's like romper room in there with these two clowns. And what it was they said that I lied. So when they interviewed me, they said, "Did you say that in a training class?" And I said,
I don't know. Right.
I can't tell you, because that's how I talked.
It's possible.
But so what ended up happening was they went and interviewed everybody else, and they were like, "Oh yeah, he says that all the time." So they said that I lied about that. And if I would lie about something that I said, then I would lie about something having to do with the space shuttle. Mm-hmm. Because the payload, everything's very sensitive, right?
Yeah.
So if I would have dropped something or left something, it was a moral issue is what it came down to. Yeah. And so I, kind of gave him the finger as I walked out the door and was like, y'all can have all this.
Right.
Because at the meantime, I had got into harder drugs when I moved back home.
How would you pass a drug test in that situation? I mean, if you're because it seems like what you're saying about that organization is pretty strict.
By taking once
and running,
probably.
So were you like strapping like?
Well, I had to study.
Pee-filled condoms or something.
Yeah. I had to study for that test.
Yeah, you did.
A boat captain study for tests.
Boat captain study.
I studied for that one because until there's an incident, until you give them reason, right?
They're not doing it randomly. Then
there's no randomness
so you
about it.
Kind of knew how long it was coming, and just. Which, by the way, most people don't realize this. When you're in the world of that addiction, the ability to abstain for a period of time so that you can get through, that's like that's a beginning to mid stage of addiction. Full blown in it.
Yeah,
you can't abstain.
Happening.
You're not abstaining. Yeah.
Well, and that was just another lie that reinforced that I thought I had it under control.
Under control,
right? I can stop.
We call it pink cloud.
No, the pink cloud.
Well, that's
the
after.
Pink cloud
that's
comes later.
Yeah. You're right. Okay, well, we can cover that. Yeah.
The pink cloud comes later. Yeah. But anyway, again, a lot of it's kind of blurry, but I found myself at 22 years old smuggling cocaine.
Wow. 22
on the spaceship?
No.
Damn, that's some good stuff, dude. Some of that moon dust.
We were really high.
Yes, you were. Now, were you coming in off the water then, right?
No, so we had people that would bring it in.
And then you were taking it from ground to central.
Correct.
Got you. From lower
Florida
to central Florida.
To central Florida.
Gotcha.
Keys from the Keys.
The
square, another form of grouper,
Square groupers. Square groupers.
Yeah. Those are really good sandwiches.
But that, if you remember too, in 95 was when the whole ecstasy scene came online.
Yeah, that's right.
You got to like.
Is that Molly?
Is that Molly?
That's what it is. That's what it is today.
We've used the word Molly here a few times.
Yeah.
It's weird how it comes up. None of us. I've never done it. But it's weird how it's come up in conversation. But it's probably the third or fourth time we said Molly. Yeah. I don't know. I don't even know why. You'd have to go back and see this. It's a thing.
I heard kids talk about Molly, and I'm like, "What's that?" And one of my buddies,
that's kind of how it comes up.
He's
in
like,
conversation.
"It's our version of ecstasy." I'm like, "Oh, I know what that is."
Yeah.
But It's funny how when you trace drugs, so like a couple kids had overdosed in Orlando at a nightclub. Okay. And when they followed it back, it's like, oh, it's this new thing, ecstasy. That's entered. Well, then of course we all flooded to it. You know, it's like, this, you can die doing this.
This is crazy.
Give me some. Right?
Yeah.
That's a true addict behavior.
Right.
Well, like you could die doing this particular drug.
Well,
I'm
you
like,
always think I'm the one though that can have it under control, right? I'm the one that will get past. I mean, I wonder what Jim Belushi would have thought of, right? I mean, you never think on like an 8-ball or something.
Yeah, you never think it's going to happen.
No,
he never. It was the first time he ever did an 8-ball.
Was it? I don't know the exact history, but I know he was basically. I heard he had a $2,500 a week habit. That's what I heard he had.
Bill Murray was just talking about this on the Rogan. And he said it was the first time he had ever did it or something.
I know there was a controversy about it, and I don't remember, but I remember because of Bill Murray being on there. Yeah,
because the Woodward guy that wrote the book about it. He's a known liar or whatever.
Okay,
written some other stuff.
There's some interesting things about him and Nixon that you're kind of like,
once he read the book,
snowed in that,
once he read the book on him, he knew that Nixon was innocent, basically.
Yeah,
but. Yeah, he said it was the first time he ever did cocaine, and he OD'd.
I mean, I think Nixon. To me, the thing that burned Nixon was probably his like in that era being caught in that way. If it was truly he was there, I think it was like the how he attacked the press or how he. He didn't have any contrition at all. Like he could have blown through that without because if you look at what he did, if you look at what he's accused of doing and did, and what goes on today, in politics,
everybody does it.
Well, and honestly, he's like a cupcake.
Nixon, that's cupcake. Watergate, right?
Watergate. Yeah. I mean, he's listening in. He was crushing the competition. He didn't even need to. And I don't even know if he was listening. Like it was somebody in.
It was like how they got caught.
It was all these crazy things.
It was.
Yeah. But it wasn't even that crazy.
It's peons to what happens today.
Honestly, it's like now we have NIL for politics. It's like what people were doing that was illegal to then is not that crazy today.
No, it's definitely accepted for sure.
Yeah, with all the AI, but so we do this. We went ADD.
What happened?
No,
so you were smuggling. Squirrel. You were smuggling in this and then there was a point in time. Like, what was kind of the rock bottom? Okay,
Ooh.
So you're there, and I mean, you can give us whatever version you want of that. But what was the rock bottom that said, okay, I need to figure this out?
Man,
this isn't working.
It stopped working long before I realized it wasn't working anymore because you think you're always going to pull out of it. What ended up happening was I spent close to a decade in that life.
Yeah,
right?
Wow.
Dang.
I paid cash for a house at the age of 24, 25. Mercedes in the garage.
Right.
Tahoe in the driveway. I've got every motorcycle, every dirt bike, everything that you can possibly purchase as a 24 or 25-year-old.
You know what I mean? Did anybody ever question you when you're rolling up with cash?
Yeah, they did.
Are you coming in stacks of cash? Like we're talking like gym bags sort of cash?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so you're like, this is a Harley. At the time, Road King was probably like $36,000. Well, between 24 and 36, depending on how it's tricked out, I imagine. So you're just bringing in that kind of brick and saying, here.
I'll put it in perspective for you. I couldn't buy vehicles brand new because I couldn't walk into a dealership.
Okay.
So I can remember when I bought this S-Series 4-door Mercedes, I bought it off a guy over in Orlando. And I remember walking into his kitchen with $60,000 cash.
Dang. Right. And just put it down on like a gym bag sort of thing.
Yeah. It's straight gang,
gangster style.
More ghetto than gangster. But
did it have any powder like laced into the money?
No, I mean it sounds
probably pretty clean money.
It was, and it sounds negligent, but at the time
we are talking about the drug world. So yeah.
But at the time, people, of course, they wondered. It was funny, man, because people knew what I did.
Yeah,
really. And you're a fool if you're in that world and you don't think that they know. They being the police or the feds.
Yeah,
you're stupid.
Yeah,
And at the time, I had a very unique situation at that time. The girl that I was dating, her dad had ran for sheriff of that county.
Right. I think I remember you telling me this. Yeah.
So I've got the sheriff's department, and then her stepdad was the commander of the local police department.
Jesus. Dude. Oh, and that's keeping your enemies close.
So I always
or just goofy,
or just plain crazy.
Oh man, I'm gonna go with that one.
But I always knew, or I didn't know, but I always had a feeling that they're not just going to come and kick my door in with her here.
Right.
That was my saving thing. I said somebody is going to blow the whistle
that off. Right.
Yeah, and I had somebody else that was in law enforcement at the time, and they said, they go, your name comes up once a year.
Wow.
Because they had like a hit list.
And they kind of know, like, and then they're just trying to figure out, like, how big of a nuisance are you in the game, right?
Well, and the cool thing, I say the cool thing, I think the reason that I got away with it for as long as I did is because I kept to myself, right? Mm-hmm. When the pressure started to come down on me was when I opened up a legitimate business right in the middle of town on Front Street. Mm. And when you drive by that business and see
you're there people, and you know what you're doing. Yeah.
Well, they know what I'm trying to do.
Right.
And they know I'm trying to wash money.
Launder. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So at that point in time, because this would later come up, right, in an interrogation.
Yeah.
That one of the investigators, he said, if you would have just kept doing what you were doing, you would have been fine. He said, but when you tried to go legit, that's when we got on to you.
Do you think that world might still be the same way, where there's a certain amount of crime level that pervades just because you just can't get rid of it all, right? Even if you get rid of it, there's new crops coming up.
Right.
So it's like, how do you control it to a point that it's not a nuisance and dangerous? Do you think that's still kind of the way the things are?
I don't know, because of what I do today.
Yeah.
That game has died, like, as we knew it.
Right.
Because fortunately, but unfortunately, I had a mentor in that period of my life who, this guy had been on America's Most Wanted twice.
Wow.
Smuggled drugs all through the 60s and 70s.
So not the positive kind of...
Not a positive. That's why I say fortunately, but unfortunately. This was who I decided to get as a mentor. Right. And the things that they got away with, he would tell me all the time. He's like, the advancements in technology, because you could run from the cops in the 60s and 70s, right? You got away.
Faster car,
no radio, limited,
visibility, streets, if you knew the roads.
Right.
Whatever,
and so when the drug game took off, is like I remember having a cell phone in 1995, right? Free nights and weekends. Well, that's when my business... That's when our business was open on nights and weekends.
Right? Nights and weekends, yeah.
So, but then what they did
was it a bag phone? Was it the big one like the Saved by the Bell? You remember you didn't have a Ericsson made the first affordable phone. Yeah.
And but what we didn't know at that time was they had just given us a tracking device.
Yes.
Right. So then we switched over. We switched over to. Well, we didn't know that at the time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But there is a text log or record, and there's a phone call log and record.
That for sure.
Yeah,
right.
It pings off towers.
Yeah.
So
that for sure.
If you're doing that back then, but let's say
even then it had been somewhat analog. I think you're going to get time of what you called and how many minutes. But now the data
can put you in a general area, I guess.
Yeah, well, now for sure.
Oh, you're done today.
Yeah, now
totally done today. But back then, like, he had guys.
I mean, you need burner phones, I imagine. I mean, at least that's what the movies show.
Yeah, Faraday cages.
Yeah.
This guy, though, I had met some of his friends that had been investigated for just talking on a payphone about crime.
Right.
Right. So he was really heavy on me about stay off the phone. Then you remember when the Nextels came out?
Oh yeah, push to talk.
So we thought, well, we've got this beat, because it's just BB.
Walkie-talkies.
Right. So it's walkie-talkies. But still, there's
it only lasted
something.
so long, and then they integrated the Nextel in with, like, Sprint, and then you were right back to it then, so yeah. And the push to talk was only it didn't stay around. I mean, I guess there's some around Southern Link, I think, in the Southeast.
There's a new one that just came out.
Is there a new one?
Yeah, because we've talked about integrating it in our business.
It is interesting. what I always thought was funny, and this was a little side swerve here, is those Nextels, they were so big, and we had them in our sanitation company. So instead of the walkie-talkies and the original like CB radios, we went all Nextels. And so every driver had a Nextel, and some of them we would hard mount, and some of the guys had handhelds. I like the hard mounts because they had ones that you could hard mount in that would have like a CB radio. So when they would hit it, it would beep, beep, and then they'd talk. What was so funny is that we would have managers and different office people in the staff that have Nextels, and you would get that person, though, in business that would beep, beep, and they just start talking. You remember there's a polite way to do it? Like, you chirp the person first, and then that person grabs their phone and says, hey, go ahead. And then you talk. But I'd sit at lunch, and sometimes like, I'd hear a beep, beep, and like, hey, Jason, we just had a wreck somewhere, and I need you. And I'm like, holy cow, let me get this phone. Like, what the hell's going on?
A meeting or something.
So I used to set my buddies up. There was a 7-Eleven in Titusville, and I'll never forget it, man. There was a line of people, and my buddy's standing in line. And I remember keying him up and saying, give me all your money. Get down there. And you should have seen the look on his face.
That's
you
great.
know what I mean? Because we were dirty at the time. He's like, why?
Why are you doing this to me?
Like, I'm like, what's anybody going to do?
Yeah. That's great.
Just young and arrogant.
That was a thing, but you're right. So you're getting into that. Now, when you kind of finally hit that rock bottom, because the police came in, you were able to kind of get, like, I remember you telling me that you kind of slipped because you didn't spend time.
No,
you kind of were able to slip. You were able to, almost that plan of escape hatch was pulled.
Hey, y'all, new customer of TruNorth Pest Control here on the Emerald Coast, Central Florida, Georgia. You got to check them out.
Yeah, they get rid of all the unwanted pests in your house, including termites and mosquitoes. Tell them the jabroni sent you. Back to the show.
I got the call eventually. What happened was
coming down.
Yeah, what happened was she confronted me. She knew what was going on. Right, she wasn't blind, but there was a level of I kept her out of it because obviously I want you to be able to testify and tell the truth. You don't know what's going on.
Right.
But her mother had called her and said he's not who he says he is. And he's not doing what he's saying he's doing.
Right.
You're going to have to make a decision.
Things are about to happen. You have two paths in your life.
Family.
And things about to happen.
Yeah, family, or you can go down. Right. And she was like, I'll gladly pack my stuff. I'm leaving this show.
This ain't worth it.
But I had so much money saved. But what had happened was I had started using, right? And the group that I ran with, that's a no-no. Like, drug dealers don't use drugs.
Right.
It's a business.
Right.
So we would blow off steam. We would go out of town. UFC was real popular. Yeah. So we were constantly flying to Vegas. Right. Yeah. And it was okay there.
Who was the big headline then?
Yeah. What's that?
Who was the big headline?
Oh, we were at Tito
Ortiz.
Tito Chuck.
Mm-hmm.
One. Tito Chuck 2.
Yeah, that'd been nice.
Trinidad De La Hoya.
Yeah.
You know, boxing was boxing.
Boxing
still
was
back then.
Yeah, back then. Yeah. Before the Paul brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The greatest of all time, bro.
Jeez. But what happened was I started using, and I had gotten an injury because I was racing. I was doing other things.
You were still doing the motorcycle stuff.
I was racing motocross at the time. We had gotten into freestyle motocross. I had a bunch of friends that were traveling and doing all that stuff. And I broke my collarbone. They gave me prescription pills. I got strung out on Oxycontin. Went down that whole road, and that was a hole I had never been in before. The cocaine, I could kind of take it or leave it.
Yeah.
But that addiction,
that was, and it's designed to be addictive.
It is. So a couple years, obviously I got out of the game when that whole threat came in, and I thought I'll just lay back a little bit and I'll enter later. Well, I had $1,000 a day drug habit at that point in time.
Wow.
So it didn't take
$1,000 a day.
$1,000 a day.
Wow.
I was doing 10 Oxy 80s.
Well, and then you didn't have the dealing side coming in.
Well, there's no money coming in, so money's just going out.
It is just pouring out to support this habit.
Yeah. So they foreclosed on my house because I wasn't making house payments. Yeah. All those things that I told you I bought, sold all those.
Yeah.
And went through probably, $300,000-$400,000 in cash.
Yeah.
And maxed out all my credit cards. So basically, that's what rock bottom looked like.
That it's just all the pressure coming in,
completely
nowhere to go. Your addiction is upon you. What is it? The saying is like, everywhere I go, therefore I am. There I am.
That's right.
Like that's where you were, right?
Yeah, and I had started smoking it, and just got went down the whole crack road. It was just anything that could get me out of me.
Yeah.
At that time I was doing. And what happened was I got picked up leaving the hood one night,
right,
scoring some dope.
Right.
And there was a lady actually that worked for the sheriff's department that lived in this like gated community that I lived in.
Okay.
And she's like, I know who you are. I know what you're up to, and I'm going to get you. And I took it super personal. I was like, but listen, today I've looked for her.
And you can't find her.
And I know her name. I know she's around.
Okay.
But my wife's encouraged me. She's like, this lady, she saved my life.
Like a thank you.
She did. She saved my life. She pulled me over every chance she possibly could. I was on house arrest. Yeah. She show up.
Yeah.
You know, I violated house arrest. I violated community control. I did all those things.
Right.
Their first offer they gave me was 5 years. And then I sat in the county for a little bit longer. Then they came back with 2 years. Until finally I'd sat in there so long, I said, here's what I'm willing to do. Give me a year.
Yeah.
I'll take a year right now and just like let it ride.
Yeah.
So they're like, okay, that's enough.
They make the deal. And
because I had spent probably 3 or 4 years incarcerated on and off. Like I said, I've cut out a snip at a time.
Yeah.
But I was getting arrested on the regular. Yeah.
And
6 months.
Yeah. It's like
90 days
or whatever.
Yeah. I was catching these little, but they were violations too.
And every time that happens, it's adding up more and more and more and more.
You're scoring. We run on a point system. Right. So I'm scoring more points every time I mess up.
Not good, by the way, young
kids. Which is not good points.
Not the good kind of points.
No, but it happened when it happened. And thank God. And it was such a relief, man. I can remember like it was yesterday riding in the back of that cop car. Like I knew I was going down, like I was going to be down for a while. And if they would have opened the gate 9 months into that deal and said, hey, you're free to go.
Right.
I'd have stayed.
Yeah.
Cause I was safe and I was getting healthy. Like I was 145 pounds when they arrested me.
Oh man. Word, dude.
I looked bad. I just I'll show you a mugshot.
That takes away your appetite, the Oxycontin.
Yeah,
everything.
Hey, if you want, we'll throw it up on the pod. So send it to me. We'll throw it in and place it in. Yeah.
But it was rough, man. And then, so that was rock bottom,
right?
For me, I was done managing my life. I didn't know anything though about recovery.
Right. And that was kind of my next step. Like, so from that point to recovery, how do you get there? You've hit rock bottom, but so typically when I've met people in rock bottom or I've heard that rock bottom story, either way, I find that relationships have been severed all around them. So when they've hit it there, they're not entirely, when they finally get there, they're not really entirely sure where to go. And then, what was that like for you when that happened?
So, like most people, you've burnt everything to the ground.
Every bridge is burnt.
As I scanned, I say this a lot, as I scanned the horizon of my life, there was nowhere I could look and go, well, we're doing pretty good over here. Right? It didn't happen.
Right.
But thank God, man. A guy that I grew up with, we went to that private school together.
Nice.
Yep. We played baseball together, but we also used together.
Okay.
He was as bad of a drug addict as I was. Well, he had pulled the parachute 2 years before I got caught.
Wow.
And he was actually coming and witnessing to me, trying to share sobriety and recovery with me. He would show up, like at the end of it, I was back at my mom's house and he showed up one day. I was still in the bed from like a 4-day, I'd been up for a week.
Yeah.
And I remember waking up and he had a Alcoholics Anonymous big book. And like some speaker CDs. And he gave them to my mom and said, have him listen to these.
Okay.
And I was like, whatever, man. Like, you think you're better than me? That type of approach.
Yeah.
I'm like, you were just as bad as I was.
The humility game is not strong in the drug world.
No, it's not. But the thing is I never got to put eyes on him.
Right.
In that time period.
Yeah.
Well, when I was incarcerated, it was Thanksgiving and he had came to see me.
Dude, so strong. Mm-hmm. Like we don't realize that I kind of want to take a moment just to point out to the audience that as a person and a believer, when you are doing something to step out in faith, to talk to somebody and we say witness, you can do the track sheet and all that, or you just sit with somebody and have a meal or lunch. you don't realize how that comes back and hits that person. Like, you can think that it is a waste of time. I can't tell you how many times I've done things and go, this is a waste of time. And then years later, you hear like, thank you so much for that, whatever. And so that's so important that this guy still was like, you weren't a waste of time.
No, he would put money on his phone so I could call him. I had a routine. Like, I would call him every Sunday night. He put money on his phone so I could call him.
That's amazing.
And then Thanksgiving, he came and saw me. So, like, visitation at this facility, you look at each other through a TV monitor.
Oh, wow. So you're not glass, you're not at a table. So you're in a TV monitor, phone in hand sort of thing.
Phone, TV monitor. And when the monitor came on, it resembled him.
But
I had never seen that guy
grainy
before.
Sort of deal, too. It's usually not like, it's not 4K.
No, it's definitely not 4K.
Yeah.
But the guy that was sitting on the other side of there wasn't the guy that I remembered the last time we were together.
Okay.
Like,
he just looked
Well, he
healthy.
was sober. He was clean.
Sober,
he was healthy. He looked great. The things that were coming out of his mouth.
Tone.
Oh, he was jacked.
Right.
But the things that were coming out of his mouth sounded
different.
Yeah.
Hopeful.
Hope is what I was looking at hope. Right.
Yeah.
And he lived here in Santa Rosa Beach. So his aunt.
Oh, that's nice. Here, huh? Nice.
Yeah. So that's how the story goes. His aunt had a hair salon out in Seagrove. And when he tried to get clean, that was their only family they had out of town.
So he was driving from Santa Rosa Beach here to Titusville, which I'm assuming is 8-ish hours. 8 hours.
7 and some change. It's 8 if you stop at Buc-ee's.
What a testimony from him.
100%. And I'll mention this for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's just what it took. He's very modest and humble in the whole thing of just like, I was just doing what I was called to do.
Baby. Heck yeah, baby.
But I always try to encourage him. And when I speak about obedience, he felt led to come, right? And you never know whose life, because he sees how many lives I've changed.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right. It continues to create ripples there.
And that doesn't happen.
And your platform is certainly, in my opinion, larger than maybe where his platform was given.
Correct.
But where you are and how Jesus uses you does not require, like, you don't have to be on the world's largest stage.
Not
right?
at all.
100%.
No. So yeah, he had came back down there, or he had moved up here. Like I said, he was a couple of years ahead of me. But the deal was, when I got out, he's like, why don't you relocate, come up here and stay with me? And I was like, bet, done.
Yeah.
So when I got out in 2000, what are we in? 25. This is like
think about it too.
Yeah, January.
It takes me till about August. Then I know it's 2025. You remember you used to write checks? I would write the wrong year for at least the first 3 months.
Till March.
Yeah, March or April. Then I'd finally get the right year. We don't do that anymore.
I wrote
Thank
a check
goodness.
like 2 days ago.
Oh my God! Like the first time in how like
TruNorth Pest Control.
Nice.
Oh,
TruNorth, baby. TruNorth.
I write checks every day.
We drop in a commercial in this, and TruNorth is a major sponsor for
No,
us.
I've watched it. Yeah, that's how I. That's a good segue.
Yeah, good.
But
good there.
no, you got out when?
Yeah, so
2010.
Yeah.
Okay. So
it's been 15 years.
15 years. And you went and you moved straight here.
I did, but the funny thing was I thought I was coming up to live with him.
Yeah.
And he had a sponsor at the time, and the sponsor's like, if this guy is who you say, or if he's been running the way you say he has,
what
the
great
last
advice.
place,
Right?
Yeah, the last place he's going to stay is with you,
100%,
right? Because you guys are toxic for each other.
100%.
So at the time, there was a guy that lived up in Freeport, had a single wide trailer. He was in recovery.
Okay.
And he told my buddy Ben, he's like, if he needs a place to stay, he can crash here.
Okay.
So I literally got out, went home, packed a backpack. My mom gave me the keys to her 4-door sedan Impala.
Yeah.
And I drove here.
Yeah.
And I landed January, 9th or 10th of that year. And I can remember it like it was yesterday, walking up the steps onto his porch, and there was like a bucket of water that was frozen because it was really cold.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
And I was like, I have made a huge mistake.
Because we get a few seasons here that Titusville doesn't get.
That is correct. Hence
and 8 inches of snow this year from the 100-year snow. That was crazy, right?
That's pretty awesome, though.
Yeah.
But I, hated the cold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
we all do.
But so here I am in this town called Freeport, in a single wide trailer in a room.
Well, in 2010, Freeport is, it's grown a tremendous amount.
Freeport's different than 2025.
Yes.
But I remember watching the AFC playoffs on a black and white television, and I was like, this is living, man. This is because it was so much better than where I had been.
We watching Coach Fietner?
Fietner, yeah. We had Coach Fietner on, Randy
Did
Fietner.
You?
Yeah, he's the offensive coordinator for the Pittsburgh Steelers last time they won the Super Bowl.
Okay.
So, and that was
2010. I don't know if he was with the Steelers.
I don't know what it was. I can't remember where it was.
That was the Bill Cowher era.
No,
Tomlin.
First year was 2010, or wasn't it?
It was Tomlin won a Super Bowl with them. Was it
Cowher?
Cowher was still
no, it was Tomlin. So
because Tomlin hired him. That's exactly
Tomlin hired him. Yeah.
Okay.
But Randy actually gave Tomlin his first coaching job at Memphis.
Yes, that's what we found out about. Randy gave Tomlin his first coaching job when he was offensive coordinator at University of Memphis.
Okay.
But then it reversed. Tomlin hired him at Pittsburgh when he got the head coaching job. So Tomlin has won a Super Bowl with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and it was the last Super Bowl. Ben Roethlisberger it was still the quarterback. Then. But yeah.
So I thought it was the Bill Cowher era. That's how much my memory.
He was post Bill Cowher.
Well, what game did you watch? Do you remember?
I don't. I just.
But you were happy watching it in that trailer.
I was happy. I was like, man, because I'd been so many years, right? Because, like I said, I left out a period where I have not been connected with anything.
Freedom in Freeport feels pretty good, I imagine.
It does.
Right? It feels pretty good.
It does.
Freedom fees good.
Period.
Anywhere.
Yeah.
100%. So you're here, which I think is great, but and I know that you saw hope through that, and you knew Jesus as a young kid.
I did.
How did that get reintroduced back to you? Did you feel like you were so I've talked with people that have gone through these cycles of addiction, and when they come out of it, honestly, they can be the most prayerful people in the world, praying to not go back in. And sometimes that cycle can be days, sometimes it can be hours. But they come out of that cycle and are like, Jesus, take this away from me right now. And so their prayer life actually is pretty strong. The addiction's stronger. So where do you feel like you were in that, or were you like totally anti-Jesus until you saw hope again? Where was that like?
So, obviously growing up, scripture, things like that. Like, here's the level of schooling I had.
Yeah.
I had to memorize the entire chapter 11 in Hebrews.
To
get and recite it in front of the class.
Nice.
To get into the 5th grade.
I like it. I love that chapter. That chapter is an amazing chapter about the multitude of hosts that are like looking down at because of Abraham and his faith was right. And then it ends with this idea that this concept that all of these heroes of faith, because of their faith, they're in heaven. They're standing around and looking down on us, which is what I love, because when you lose someone, it's that image of yes, they are there with these other heroes, and they have the capability to see us.
Yeah. So coming back to Jesus again, I fought it for as long as I could. So when I met my wife, we dated, about near killed each other. I had
here in Freeport.
I met her in Santa Rosa Beach.
Okay, well
she was getting clean at the time.
No offense to the Freeport folks.
No.
You got Hammock Bay now, dude.
It's legit.
She was getting clean at the time. We met in recovery. And we did everything they told us not to do. Like, don't date, don't get in relationships, don't do all that. And we were like, we took each other hostage, you know. And about 3 years in is when I started building motorcycles again.
Okay,
relapsed again. So she got to see my addiction like wide open, and she's like, "We're going to church."
Yes.
So she took me to Destiny United Methodist. They were doing a month on recovery at the time. Wow. And we walked in and sat down.
What a crazy thing to have going on.
That's right.
In a relapse moment.
Correct. But I was reintroduced at that time to the Jesus of I never knew Jesus. Let me just say that. Right? I knew religion.
You knew of him.
I knew of him, but I didn't know him. And, it's that moment of just fix me, right?
Yeah.
Right?
One of my favorite authors of all time is a guy named Philip Yancey. He grew up in a church that my mother grew up in. They grew up together in the same churches, like Faith Baptist Church, Independent Baptist Church, in like South Georgia, like just south of Atlanta. But they grew up in it. He wrote a book years later called The Jesus I Never Knew.
Yeah, I read it.
And it's an amazing
awesome book.
It's an amazing book. I'd recommend anyone to read this book. It's a great book. But he wrote it because he grew up in a church that was so systematic.
That's it.
And he didn't know it. And so he's like, this is the Jesus I never knew.
That's correct.
And
great. Yeah.
And so when you said that, it made me think of that.
Great point. Yeah. No, and it was a good book and very much relatable.
Yeah.
But it was at that time, that I got reintroduced.
Yeah.
And then obviously God's a gentleman, right?
Yeah.
He's not going to come where he's not invited.
That's right, man.
So I think it takes that
if there's
point.
99, C.S. Lewis said if there's 99 steps between you and God, all you got
to do is take one.
He'll do the 99.
That's right.
But you got to do one.
You're going to have to do one.
Yeah.
And I was finally willing to take that step.
Yeah.
And he made the he made the 99.
That's right.
That's when I got reintroduced, and ministry, none of that stuff was on the table at the time.
But you got into maintaining your sobriety. So I have a friend of mine, and this story. I haven't talked to him in a few years from now. We were neighbors, and he went helter skelter. I mean, we were living in a really nice negated neighborhood. He had businesses going on, all of these other things. You've got an interesting story along with him. He had young kids, wife, all of these things. And then it turns out he was basically like skimming off money from people and investors and all of these things. Massive drug habit. His wife didn't know. I mean, it was just absolutely crazy. It all kind of came crashing down, I think, without jail time, but not without other consequences, right?
Right.
And so, but when I ran into him years later, so I just saw him fall off the face of the earth, and I didn't actually know that all that had happened, right? Because I had other things going on, and I just thought, we lost connection.
Sure.
Because he was like, he came out of the Chick-fil-A world. So it was, and then got out of that. And, usually if somebody leaves Chick-fil-A world, it's a weird, if you're in that management world, it's a weird situation because I think they take really good care of folks. And that's not everywhere. If you're a manager listening to this show and you're not there, I'm not trying to say like don't look at them. They could have had a better opportunity or something happened, although that chicken is God's chicken, people. But
it's kind of a church hurt situation.
I don't know.
When they leave Chick-fil-A?
It can be.
Yeah,
it can be. Maybe. I don't know.
Right.
But actually, I hate to even speculate because I think the organization in general probably does really good and treats people really well. Now, with that being said, though, this guy went helter skelter. I run into him. Fast forward. I hear this testimony from him to the point where he tells me though that he was now in AA, NA, SA.
He was in all
the A's.
He was in all the A's.
And it was so funny because he was saying how...
He was super anonymous.
Yes. Yeah. But he was telling me how all the ones in like AA really needed to also be in this one.
Right.
Now, and there's some truth to it. Some of it is just going to the class and doing the work and having...
Sure.
He needed a ton of... And there's times like, right, when you do that, you need 7 classes in 7 days or 30 classes in 30 days.
90 and 90.
That, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Now, I don't know I know there's an analogy there for 12-steppers.
Yeah, 90 meetings in 90 days.
So I think he got hooked on that, and he was in a meeting regimen. His wife even had him doing a lie detector test every week and a drug test. They I don't think they made it, but when I heard his story and what was going on, I said, look, there's consequences. There's consequences.
Here's the thing, though, in that, and sorry that their marriage didn't work out.
Right.
You got to remember, she was sober. Mm-hmm. Going through this with him.
Well,
right?
You could compare it to a car accident, right? She wasn't driving the car, but she was still
the level of sanity she has.
Right.
He's got an excuse. He's drunk or high.
Right.
She's going through this sober.
Yeah.
So who needs therapy?
Right. Well, both.
They both
do, but she does too, for sure.
But typically,
codependency, there's all sorts of things where you may have seen signs and let it go because I need this person, I need that. You don't know. There's just so much to it.
Well, funny enough, people that come out of sobriety that have marriages like that, kids where it's happened in the marriage,
right?
What typically happens is the wife no longer has a role.
Yeah.
When the husband's gotten clean or sober because she was the caretaker.
Yeah.
Like she's the nurturer, all those things. And now he can take care of himself.
What do I do now? Yeah.
He's thinking for himself. He's doing all these things. There's no role for her anymore.
You start to, get to know somebody different because a lot of times if you're in a relationship with someone, very rarely does addiction start like 10 years into marriage.
No.
Not saying it doesn't happen.
Yeah. There were
something happening before. It was just hidden so well.
That's right.
But so maintaining your sobriety. I tell that story. Say how do you maintain your sobriety? What did maintain your sobriety?
So I go to regular meetings regularly. Yeah. Right. I have a Monday night men's group that's AA centered. Right. Yep. We talk about AA stuff. Right. Yep. Because I know that people that don't go to meetings don't get to see what happens to people that don't go to meetings.
So simple.
Right?
Say that again, because that's so simple, so good.
People that don't go to meetings don't get to see what happens to people that don't go to meetings.
That's right.
Brilliant. So I do that on Monday night. My wife and I lead a ministry, So we were in the AA world. That's how we got sober. And then obviously that wasn't enough, right?
Yeah.
So when we started going to church, we're like, oh my gosh, all these biblical principles are the root of AA. I could talk for hours.
They are the root of AA.
I could talk for hours on that.
He just didn't want to ostracize people that's
exactly right.
in the church to not get healthy. But and by the way, biblical principles work. This is really good for the audience. Biblical principles work whether you believe them or not.
That's correct.
It is kind of a proven science that if you say I'm going to treat people really well, I'm going to put others before myself.
Yep.
I'm going to live a certain way. All again, Judeo-Christian values. If I do that, you're going to have actually a really pretty good life,
and you'll be successful.
Yes, absolutely.
All those things that you're trying to get,
right. That it works, like Christian principles work. And so I love the fact about AA that it was built off of those principles.
100%.
He just didn't want to stop somebody from not coming in because they're
because
Muslim
they didn't believe
or they were
exactly.
or whatever. Yeah.
But the founding members came out of the Oxford group, Christian based.
Yep.
Got it.
100%.
So like I said, I still do that because I feel that that's my job. Somebody was sitting in that room when I came in it.
100%.
And I think what I see a lot
to give back too that can be healthy.
Well, so many people,
sobriety.
I call them, a lot of drug addicts or alcoholics, they were thieves. You just mentioned that, right?
Yeah.
Well, nothing's changed in their life. They just came in and stole some sobriety and left with it.
Yeah.
So I think it's important that you hold the seat down for the next guy that's coming in. And that's a lifetime commitment.
Yep.
Okay. Like, it's not like I've done my time here and I can get up and go. I still show up for those guys on Monday night. There's still new guys that are walking in.
That's right.
They may not identify with me today at 10 years of sobriety. Right. But I'm there to give them hope.
Absolutely. 100%. I mean, we're made in the image of God, but then that hope comes out through giving that image of Christ. We want to give it. We're not Christ, but Christ is in us.
Well, and like James said, be doers of the word, not hearers only.
That's a good one, bro. That's right.
And we could go down that road too.
We can. So, in fact, I mean, thank God you found sobriety, you found Jesus, you found the hope, you found the center of it, and also know you've like through this process and speaking in AA and doing these things has actually given you a platform to speak inside the church. And I know you've pastored, some church and been a speaking pastor for once a month, several times a month.
Right.
You've done a lot of that stuff, and you've had the opportunity not just to share your testimony, but really to share the truth of the gospel and reach into those letters that were given to us and these collection of books that were given to us all those many years ago and teach from it. So that's, I mean, you've come a long way, brother.
It's come a long way. But again, I always give all this credit to my mother, right? Had she not put me in that environment, because it was shocking when I got back into church, how
much came back. And I'm like, man, I know this story. Leave you void.
I know this. No, not at all.
Yeah.
So it's benefited me now coming around.
Pull that mic down just a little bit.
Pull it down.
Yeah, there you go. I like that there. Yeah.
But anyway, it was a good foundation for me to come back to be able to build the life that we have now on. Right?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
Huge.
100% foundation. I mean, there is something about, and kids are going to be kids. And I have 3 of them, 21-year-old, 19-year-old, and 16 soon to be 17-year-old. And, they're kids, and things aren't perfect, and they make their own decisions. But I'm telling you, parents, if you have young kids, instilling in them if you have a belief system in Jesus, if you don't, man, DM me, talk to me, reach out to somebody. I'd love to talk to you about it. I appreciate you watching and leaning in to a show that isn't super faith forward, but we have episodes and we talk about faith. And so when we do, I appreciate you leaning into that. But if you are a person of faith, teaching your kids a foundation on faith, when you give it, it doesn't come back void. So
that and the word says they'll return to it when they're older.
100%. And
right.
So laying that down on folks is so important. In fact, I think that's like Proverbs or whatever it is, or Psalms or Proverbs. So I'd have to Google it. I'm good at a lot of stuff, but I mean, it was 67 books out there.
I'm not big on addresses.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
I know what you mean. I like paraphrasing.
Just
real
do
well.
what it says.
That's right.
I don't.
That's right.
But
That's
I do
right.
believe in chapter and verse.
Yeah. I'm here with it, baby.
Bible things, Bible ways.
I love it. So, share with us. You've got this ox construction, and I want you to talk white ox. I'm sorry, white ox construction. It's white. I didn't mess up the last name, but I did mess up. So white ox construction. It's white ox construction. No, whiteoxconstruction.biz. So you've got White Ox Construction.
There's two. So there's the home remodeling side, and then we just started a new construction
But I want
side.
to talk about this because it's also something you're doing with the recovery and the men. And while you're working with people in recovery, you're not just doing recovery. You're diving into their lives and finding opportunities.
I'm glad you brought that up because when I started, I didn't set out to grow a business. I didn't know everything I know about business was from selling drugs.
Yeah. Which can be lucrative.
Hey, you're good at it.
Yeah. It has its own risks.
Well, it's definitely benefited, but business isn't as complicated as we make it.
Right.
Sometimes. But when I started out with business, the guys that I was around were guys that were trying to get their life together. And again, it wasn't about the money. It was about the people.
Yeah.
Because when I was done and I was fired from management, of my life.
Yeah.
So I couldn't, I could tell you about the gospel, but I'd rather show you. Like, I'd rather see a good sermon than hear one.
That's Assisi, baby. Francis of Assisi.
Yeah. So I would tell guys, just get in the truck, man. Like, you need a job, you need help, whatever, get in the truck. So I started doing that. And over the last 7 or 8 years, the crew has grown. We have a joke that if you can pass a background check, you can't work here. It's the complete opposite. So,
at what point do you put guys in when they're in recovery that you say, hey, I think you're sober enough to nail a hammer, or I can trust you in this client's house? Like, how do you manage that sort of thing?
Let me tell you, my project manager, the guy that runs my business today, I got day one, January 1st, 7 years ago.
Nice.
He put the bottle down and said, this is my starting date. And I had him painting door jambs.
Yeah.
Right. And here we are 7 years later, and I like to be there because I need to be there.
Right. Check in, do all the things you got to do.
But I don't have to be there.
Yeah.
Right. And the level of loyalty, especially in this area, like, I truly have a love for him.
Yeah.
Not like a son, but just, I appreciate the effort and the time that he's given me. He could make a lot more money working for other people, possibly even working for himself.
Right.
But I took the business form of, if you'll build people up, that's loyal. Like, you're going to have their loyalty. Like Mike and I get into it sometimes, like searching Indeed, looking for the heavy hitter, this, that, and the other. And I always take the approach of raise up who you have, right?
Yeah.
If you'll raise up who you have, then
that's such a good
once
point.
they get
That's
to
such
where,
a good point.
Once they get to where, they feel like proud of what they're doing.
Yep.
They'll always credit you for being the one to get them there.
That's
not
right.
that
you
we
don't
need an
credit.
ego. I don't need the credit.
Right.
But there's a sense of loyalty that they'll have of going, I wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for the time you spent with me. And if you've instilled enough in them, they'll stay.
Well, and here's the thing: even if he stays or he goes,
exactly,
right? The thing is that you were what you're doing and giving people purpose. Because that's kind of the side effect sometimes when you're in recovery and you hit that rock bottom point. Hope can be found, but sometimes that's one of the things I see that stumbles a lot of folks. And then they also get involved. I knew I've told this story before. Our church was really heavily around kind of that addiction world. We had a lot of folks come through that, and I used to I threw this one concert, and after the concert, my after party was at detox for this addict that was ready to give his life to Christ and get it right. And I saw him do incredible things for years and then relapse, go back into the program, relapse again, and honestly, he OD'd. And it was very tough, but man, God bless Sam. I know Sam loved Jesus, and I know Sam is with Jesus now. But it was just a tough thing to see that him go through that addiction world and to sit with him and do that and to love on him. Yeah. But sometimes when he would go back into the purpose, and he was a painter, but you get into a painting crew, that it can be dangerous. I mean, it's like pairing you and that buddy up. Sure. You know, it could be very dangerous. Now, you're bringing crews in, and you might have him paint, but he's not around like a painting crew per se. You know, he is tucked into an area, so you're giving them somewhat of a structure, a safe area.
Right. It's safe,
and then a purpose. Yeah, which is, I think, like
and you're
almost as important as the hope part.
Well, you're putting him around other people, right, that he can identify with, that are on that same walk with him. Yeah. So community's huge, right? Yeah.
Community. In the sobriety world, community is like everything, right?
It is, because the first thing they tell you is change your people, places, and things, right?
That's a change. Yeah, well, and you can't change people, places, and things, right? So, but that is what you need. So when you can't change them, you got to change.
That's right.
Then you, like you said, you got to change your. You can only take care of your side of the street. That's the biggest thing in sobriety is you can't control them, but you got to get out of it.
That's right. What a great thing that your mom did. It's like, here's the keys.
Yeah.
Like, get out of here. Like, get around this. Because it sounds like you burned a ton of bridges.
Man.
But that was your world.
It was.
You need to get in a different world.
That's it. Yeah.
What a great mom.
No, my mom's awesome. She prayed. I wouldn't be
praying
here.
Moms,
praying moms.
Praying moms.
Praying grandmas, man.
Hey, we say praying moms. I want to keep making it praying dads, too. So let's get praying dads, praying moms.
There's something about
praying
the
moms,
heart of
man.
a mother.
Well,
that is just
100%.
It's different.
Mothers are amazing.
Yeah.
We both got Kathy's. He's got a Kathy mom.
Your mom's not Kathy.
Your mom's
not Kathy.
No. Wow.
I was going to say, that would be crazy. His mom's Kathy. My mom's Kathy. Both K's. Kathy with K. Jason. That's why I want to ask you, is your mom Kathy?
No, my mom's a Joanne.
Joanne.
Yeah.
Joanne. Well, that's hey, thankful for Joanne, right? That's right. Awesome.
You took a car.
It wasn't
That's pretty wild. I took my mom's car and got out of here.
It wasn't
That's a great mom.
Well, it's been cool to look back now, like today, knowing what I came here with. You know, like I started my business. My wife is a hairdresser. Mm-hmm. Okay. I didn't have any money because when I relapsed, I go till I run out.
Yeah.
And she always has cash on her. And I said, hey, I need $20. This lady called me to go put her faucets in her house. Right. She doesn't know about this recent screw up that I've had.
Right.
And if she was a little reluctant, okay, here's $20, and she sent me out of the house that day, after I had detoxed myself in our living room. We were engaged to get married.
Oh, wow.
She canceled our wedding 5 days before we were going to get married.
What a smart woman.
Very smart.
Hold you accountable.
She's like, we're going to try. Exactly. She's like, I hold us to a higher standard than 100%. This. And I'm not going to just save face right now. I mean, we had people flying in from everywhere.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm not going to do it. And thank God she did that.
I'm very thankful for my wife, too. She holds me accountable. And I always tell people I'd be in a ditch somewhere if it wasn't without her. She holds me accountable. I mean, and I say that I don't want to discount Jesus. I think Jesus could still do a mighty work in you without. But he does use people.
He uses women.
He uses people, and certainly as men, he can definitely use a strong woman. Yeah. Can really, really take you a long way.
Is something specific trigger the relapse? This recent one?
So I was back into one of the things that I did when I was doing all of that was I built motorcycles. Mm-hmm. So I built custom motorcycles. We were just south of Daytona. We had built a good brand around that. So when I got sober here in 2010. I did like handyman work for a guy. A guy gave me a job, making $15 an hour.
Yeah. Right.
Like back when you were 18?
Yes, like 20 years later.
Before the Mercedes and the cars and the bikes.
Right.
20 years later, I'm back to $15 an hour.
Yeah.
Right.
He gave me a job as like a handyman for him. So I did that for a while. And then the opportunity came back to get back in the bike world. And I thought, well, now I can do this the way that I want to do it. Like I'm sober. I'm creative. Like I can really get it, and we opened a shop in Destin in around 2012, 2013, and we blew up. Mm-hmm. Like I had a deal with Monster, the energy drink company. Yeah. We had a TV show deal
you
on
may
the
have
table.
Redone some of my father-in-law had 2 bikes down here at one time. He had a white 1991 Heritage Softail Classic that was dropped and chromed out. He had all the lights neon lights underneath it. And he had a Road King that he had dropped and done the same way too. But it was like a 99 Road King.
Okay.
So he did some of that work he did in Atlanta, but when he brought the bikes down here, there was a group in Destin that did all of really his work.
That was probably us.
So he lived over in Burnt
Mountain Drive.
Yeah. Mountain Drive. Yeah. I think I bet it was. I bet you did some of his work. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we were there, but the thing so when we hooked up with the TV network, they had demographics they were trying to fill, and they had a tattoo shop, a gearhead thing, some girl reality, yada yada yada. Yeah. So at the time, I was trying to put a tattoo shop in our motorcycle shop.
Oh, cool!
Yeah,
but the city of Destin has an ordinance: you can't have a tattoo shop so many thousand feet from another one, and all those landmarks had already been occupied.
Yeah,
gotcha.
So at the time, Fort Walton looked like it was wide open.
Yeah.
And also, too, I think when you come here, you see Destin, you think everybody's got money.
No.
No. The people that are going to spend money are the blue-collar people that work. Right? And the military's over there. And let me tell you, Fort Walton looks a lot like Titusville.
Yeah.
It
Gotcha. Yeah.
So we had moved our shop over there. I put a tattoo shop in my bike shop. But you got to remember, the demographic of people that I'm around is very familiar. Everybody's drinking. Everybody's using
that biking community,
right?
It does not necessarily
everybody,
but there is an underbelly in that community. That
so my sister-in-law, my wife's sister, owns Coyote Ugly. So we were using her bar like to post up in for all these bike events and things. Bike, all the bike weekend day, all that.
Yeah.
Anyway, the event was my mechanic's son had a pain pill prescription that he didn't use, and I had hurt my back, and he comes in not knowing anything about my history and goes, "Hey, if you need one of these," he set them on top of my toolbox, and he's like, "Hey, I got a script of these. I never take them. You can have them." And that was like
that's simple.
That was it. That was
kryptonite. So what I did though, I was like, I have got to get out of here.
Yeah.
I got in my truck, I shut the shop down, and I left. I drove from Fort Walton to 2nd Street in Destin, where we were living at that time.
Yeah.
And I got like 3 houses from mine.
Yeah.
And turned around.
Oh, wow.
Stop thinking about it.
I drove back to the shop because I'm only going to take one.
Yeah.
Right?
Because my back hurts.
I only take one because my back hurts. And $20,000 in 4 or 5 months later.
Holy.
Wow.
I'm in a,
what makes it so addicting?
It is so.
I've never really.
So
you're always going to chase.
It's escaping, right? Everything's about avoiding pain or having pleasure.
Yeah.
So that's the deal, right? It's escaping that. Yeah.
It was, and for me, the time, what was going on in that is I wasn't happy. Like in the business, some things had kind of changed. We lost all these deals that we had, and all those deals were contingent on landing this, which was a blessing in the long run. Huge blessing that all this went down, because it would have been terrible. Right. But it all walked out the door, like $750,000 in a TV show walked out the door in 4 days.
Wow.
And I'm like, I'm done.
Yeah.
Right. And at that point in time, getting high sounds like a great idea.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's a lot better than what I'm dealing with right now.
I don't have to think about anything.
Exactly. So I was like, who's going to suspect me, Joe Sobriety?
Yeah.
Right. To relapse.
To be in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, 3 years, you feel like, and that's that pink clouding, right? Because that's what we're talking about, because you feel like you got it. I think probably,
how does this thing work?
I think it's the twist on there. We just got to get there. Yeah.
It's a little heavy.
Yeah.
Let's overcorrect.
Yeah, there you go. There we go. It's good. Yeah, I mean, it's a $10 podcast. You know, what do you want?
$9.
$9 and
you got
quarter.
A tip jar? I can leave something in on the way out.
Nine and a quarter. Now we'll upgrade them. Once we get a little bit more.
Jason did say to bring us a new microphone.
Yeah. You need a tithe box here.
That's right. We put it right in the door and she goes.
You need to pass a plate around in there.
That's right. That's right.
Gold one.
Yeah. That's right. No, man.
That's going to be my gift to you guys. I'll bring it by in a couple weeks.
That pink cloud, and like when you feel like you have it all, right? That you've got it under control. You don't need to do all this. You pinnacle of sobriety.
And I could have passed the lie. I could have passed the lie.
You could have gotten through it, right? Yeah, 100%.
That'll never happen again.
100%. So, I mean, but being aware and being self-aware is so important in your sobriety.
Well, and that's
where the sponsor comes in too.
And having a sponsor. Well, so those were the things that changed though. So I had gotten so busy, I stopped going to meetings.
Yep.
I stopped calling my sponsor.
It's pink cloud, baby.
But more importantly, I stopped getting on my knees in the morning.
Yeah.
I was too busy for things, and my priorities got out of order. It was all about me. And it wasn't about anybody else. And when all that left, I was like, man, I've made all these sacrifices to get us here. It was just, it was I.
It's our nature.
100%.
Right. It was a bunch of self-centered, selfish behavior. And the only thing I knew how to do at that time was medicate. So that's what I did.
And your wife holding you accountable, thank God.
Yeah,
right?
and
what an amazing
I like her already.
My wife's
I had the opportunity to meet her in just passing, but she's a
smoke
like
show,
star.
man, inside and out, all the way around.
That's awesome.
But yeah, if it wasn't for her, I'd be dead.
Yeah,
I believe that today.
For sure.
100%.
So we're kind of coming towards the end, but I do want to ask you one more question. What do you, today, Jason Shinholster, what would you tell 20-year-old Jason Shinholster or 16-year-old, if you go back, or 14, whatever it is, what would you tell that person?
If you're going to be dumb, you better be tough.
I think Johnny Cash said that, right?
I'll quote Johnny Cash on that one. In hindsight, man, God had his hand on me and was protecting me that whole entire time.
Yeah. You could overdose.
Without what you went through, you wouldn't have.
Yeah, we skipped all that.
Yeah. Oxy does that. It binds the brainstem and you can stop breathing.
I was 30 years old back in the same hospital I was born in with machines breathing for me. Like I was right there on my 30th birthday. My birthday's in what's today?
March something.
8th, I think.
8th, yeah, maybe.
So my birthday's in 5 days. When I was 30 years old.
The 13th?
Yeah, the 13th.
My wife's the 13th.
Is she really?
Yeah.
Young Brock's March 12th.
She was 79. She's 79, though.
Okay.
But yeah, 13th, March 13th.
So
next Thursday, a week from today.
I was back. I had multiple overdoses during all that time period. I've been picked up, carried out of my brothers found me. I almost drowned in a tub one time.
Wow.
It just, you know what I mean? A litany of close calls and things that I should have probably.
But having those experiences, as bad as they were to go through it, and I'm sure you, ideally, I don't think anyone prays for that sort of thing to happen for them. And no parent, no parent ever does that, right?
No.
But you would, if without those experiences, you wouldn't be where you are today, helping the people that are there.
Yeah, it's a hard question to answer.
It probably is. So let me flip it a little bit, because I do appreciate your honesty in that answer. If you were to tell somebody that's that age, now, if you're speaking to our audience is like 17 to 44 is like 85% of our audience. If I'm reaching down to the young people in that 17, 18, 19-year-old world, 20-year-old world, what would you say to that person?
Man. What is it? Smart
if you're going
people,
to be dumb, you got to be tough.
Yeah, well, smart people learn from their own mistakes. Wise people learn from everyone else's. Right, and it doesn't have to be.
That is really good.
It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be hard.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Life does not have.
It doesn't have to be
hard.
that way, right?
And there's going to be pain and there's going to be suffering along the way, but you can determine to the level of what that needs to be.
That's right.
But if I had to say something to somebody, I would say, don't be afraid to ask for help.
Good call.
Because I think we all grew up.
That's beautiful.
Here's
especially
the thing.
as a guy.
I'll ask you guys, because this seems to be a constant thing, right?
Yep.
Who told you that it wasn't manly to ask for help? Did your dad ever tell you that?
So it was, I don't think my dad said don't ask for help, but I think there was this implied space.
That's where I'm going with it.
Yeah.
Right. He didn't say it.
Nobody ever told us that.
Yeah.
But somehow we heard that. Right?
Yeah.
Or there was an implication.
Well, the movies we saw, Men Are Tough, we bottle it up.
We keep them your own.
We also watched the men that were leading in the time and the days that you just didn't talk about it. And you would hear these, you kind of hear these explosions, you know, that would happen from time to time, you know, that you would have explosions. There were times in my home that I felt like we went to church, we put our church clothes on, went on Sundays, but behind closed doors sometimes it was very chaotic. It was very much chaos, and it wasn't always peaceful. Yeah. And so you get, so from witnessing that sort of thing, you think, I have an outward Jason and an inward Jason.
That's right.
You know? And so that's real easy to happen and to be in that world. So you're right. You're totally right. It's implied.
Well, and here's why I say that. The reason that I've done a lot of inventory in my life on myself. And the reason that I didn't ask for help was because I was afraid that I just might get it. And then what?
Then what?
Right? Then what? So I ask you for help. You actually helped me. And then that means now I have to show up.
Oh, right? I knew this one guy, and
you have to
shout out.
Exactly.
I don't want to commit.
And shout out Jason Fowler. He's a musician, still touring today. He's now worship pastor at the Atlantic Ocean side.
Right on.
And but he does a lot in the faith-based world. Does a lot of concert stuff.
Yeah.
Does a lot of the festival stuff too. And he works. He even does something. I think it's I'm trying to think the band. He's in a second band that's with the guys, with like some of the guys from Petra and Whiteheart and some of those guys doing stuff, where they still go out in the Storytellers tour. And so he talks and shares his story and does things with like that. Really cool stuff that he's doing. But Jason Fowler talks about back in the day recording at Muscle Shoals, Alabama, and getting a record deal and all this stuff. But when he started to get some fame, he was also drinking and having alcohol and drugs and all these other things. And he felt like that's what he needed.
Yeah, to do it.
Perform. Like, in fact, if I get sober, to your point, if I get sober, will I even be able to sing the same way? Will I be able to play a guitar the same way, you know?
Well, my creativity, and any artist or any musician, they're all going to go back to that.
Yeah.
The creativity was in all of that.
Right.
And it was funny because at the time when I was doing all of that, I would get high and draw.
Yeah.
So like T-shirts, things like that. I had a clothing store or a retail store. Yeah. And I always wanted to have my own clothing line, all that stuff. So I would sit in my office, you know, getting high.
Yeah.
And like I put tattoo flash on T-shirts back in the early 90s. Like way before it eventually got trendy in like the late 2000 or you know 2000, somewhere in there.
Affliction,
yeah, exactly. I was doing that 20 years ago. That was the idea.
Right.
And I remember when I got when I would sober up or whatever, I just I lost all interest in it, you know. And it's a joke in our house because my wife goes, if he ever comes out with colored pencils, the jig is up.
The jig is up.
So like last night,
she's looking for
we're going back to rehab.
Yeah. Last night we were sitting at Outcast, right?
Yeah.
And they have the paper on the tables.
Yeah.
And I remember I asked the waitress, I said, "You got any crayons?" And my wife looks at me
easy, brother.
Where have you been today?
Well, Jason, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys.
I've really enjoyed hearing your story. I mean, this helter skelter to hope.
Yeah.
And I love that story, but I love how you're giving hope to others and passing it on. And that is so stinking important.
Well, and also too, so we started a nonprofit last year.
Yes, please. Yeah.
So Walton, we kept it really simple. Walton County Transitional Housing, right? Mm-hmm. So being in the workforce today, the problem in this area is housing, right?
Yeah, major. Affordable housing.
Affordable housing. So what I wanted to do, I volunteer at the prison up in Walton County. Some of the guys that work for me, I've gotten out of that prison. I've met them. They got great programs there and all that.
Yeah,
they
do have some good programs.
Yeah. They do. And the largest untapped labor resource in our country is incarcerated.
Yeah. No kidding. There's like how many millions of people.
Right.
So what we want to do
we
is
imprison more people than anywhere else on the planet too.
Yeah.
So
Well, and there's people that got talent and skill in prison.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
So what we did is we bought the house that you next to Mike.
Next to Mike's, yep.
We're renovating that, coming to the end of that. So what we've agreed to do,
you need to buy the website mikeshouse.com.
Mike's neighbor.
Trade
him. So we're taking the house that we're currently living in and opening it up. And people like Mike, there's other people professionally in this area that have seen how successful I've been with mentoring these guys and doing that. But I want to get these guys, partnered with men in the community and say, like, here's your mentor. Yeah. And it gives business people, like, if you want to give back and you got a passion, a lot of guys that I meet never got to connect with their kids in their addiction or something like that. And it's like, I couldn't help my son, but I would like to help somebody else's son.
Yes, sir.
Right. And it's not weird.
Yeah, yeah.
So I want to give people an opportunity to come in and share their expertise. If it's finances, if it's business, if it's photography, whatever that is, come in and teach somebody a skill.
Hey, I'm in, baby.
Let's train them up.
I'm in,
and let's get them out.
You can count on us, jabronis. We want to figure it out.
Yeah, man.
So we want to help you out in that. And so tell us the name of it again.
It's Walton County Transitional Housing.
Okay. Is there a website?
There is. Okay. There is, and I'll give you a link for giving. We're in the raising money, stage. Like I said.
Well, we'll flash that up. Perfect. So send me the link. I want to flash that up for everybody to check it out. If you're listening online, and you're in your car, we'll have something in the show notes. So down below, you can find in the show notes. We'll drop that down in there, and you can kind of like see more and hear more about how you can get involved with what Jason and his wife are doing in this transitional house world, and how we can help people in this community that sometimes get forgotten. We make mistakes, but we are if you're a faith person, and quite frankly, even if you're just American, it's kind of in our blood that you come back is what we like to see.
Yeah, everybody loves the underdog.
Yes, sir.
They do.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. But it has been a pleasure. I have one more thing to say. One more thing to say, because we did have a question come in, and we've missed a couple of these. So we have a mailbag. We have a mailbag. It's a $10 podcast. That's 10 podcast. This one actually is so poignant for today. But $10 podcast, that's 10 podcast at gmail.com. $10 podcast at gmail.com. Send us in your questions. It's anonymous. We'll read it out, and then you're an honorary jabroni today.
Nice.
So the four of us are going to try to answer this question that came in.
Okay.
So it says, Dear jabronis, my kids grew up in the church.
Ooh.
They have now left faith. What is it that I can do to bring them back?
That's a great question.
It's a very good question, and I understand the heart. I'm going to take a stab and say this is a mother, could be a father, but I don't give that up. It's completely anonymous.
I'd bribe them with cash.
But bribe them with cash. My knee jerk reaction is that you're not going to be able to bring them back.
It's a tough question.
That you're not going to be able to do something.
No,
but there is power in prayer.
Amen.
So I would tell you that I'd be careful about the track world, like leaving certain things out, because pushing it on somebody is pushing away, right?
Yeah.
Right. So anybody else want to take a stab at this? That's kind of the direction my thought process goes right now.
No, that's it, man.
Yeah, you don't want to push them away farther. So
I feel like it's action. So prayer and love, right? That's kind of where it's going to be, but it's got to be a tough love, because it depends on where your kids are, right? If they're helter-skelter, a tough love. But if they're just like I don't believe in it, it's all fooiness.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody comes to a crossroad in their life.
All right.
But the thing, with my mom almost loved me to death, right?
Yeah.
She enabled, she did all those things. Yeah. It wasn't until my mom said, you got to go.
Get out of here.
You got to go. Yeah. Like, I'm going to pray for you.
That really started you towards the right trajectory.
Yeah, and that was it. She just put her money where her mouth was and said, hey, I'm giving you to God.
Yeah.
And it's no longer, it's not up to me.
I remember a story. So years and years ago, when I was pastoring the church in Atlanta, I had a buddy of mine, and I don't know if I've told this story on the pod. Sometimes I tell these stories all the time in different emotions.
The fifth time,
I don't know. It might be the fifth time. Might be the fifth time. But my son was playing soccer at Inner Atlanta in a club in downtown Atlanta, soccer club. And one of the families there was from Ireland, and the dad was Patty. I love Patty, love to hang out. Anybody named Patty, I want to hang out with you,
Yeah.
And he was, they both had the hard Irish accent, and I love accents, man. I really do. And so I don't like my Southern accent that much, but I really wish it was like British or Irish or something.
Yeah.
So at any rate, Patty, great accent, great name. Patty's Day, of course, he's throwing a Patty Day party, and he lived just down the road from us.
Patty milk.
So he came over there and he had the green drinks and all the other stuff, and we're hanging out. And he's introducing me some friends, and he says something, and right about this time, Creflo Dollar from World Changers Church, which we just had, our buddy came on, Rob, with Church Hurt, and he came out of that and that world. And Creflo has a lot of great things, and I'm not a part of Creflo, but there was a part of a sermon that Creflo said something about if everybody gave a certain amount, he could get a jet.
Yeah.
I don't know that is exactly what was said. I don't know why he said it. Again, I think Creflo has, if you follow the path of where his ministry's gone, has come I think there was heavier on the prosperity, but he's gotten like definitely more into the grace side.
Okay.
So it's an interesting walk there. People can have all their opinions about it, but this is where God comes in play. So while I'm there, he's introducing me. Somebody says, by the way, he's a pastor. And the guy immediately, because this is now, it was like headline news in Atlanta, AJC. He had just gotten like hot mic'd for this message, And this guy says, so you gonna get a jet? You buying a jet? How many people you asking for a jet? So now every pastor, is kind of doing this, right? Not the case, as you know. and so I told him that. I said, look, I don't, and I don't like to beat up pastors. I really don't, because I just know how hard it can be, and it's a tough job. And, other than those Westboro Baptist Church guys, they can go fly kite. But I said, look, I don't know. I'm not part of his church. I don't know the message. I wasn't there, and I hate to judge, but that's not, I'm not that way. Right. And I don't know even that he's that way. I don't know. Right. I wasn't there. And he kind of shuffs it off and all this. Walks away. Lady behind me taps me on my shoulder. I turn around. She goes, did I hear you were a pastor? I said, yeah. And crazy enough, she asked me a question very similar to this. She said, my 13-year-old daughter just came to me and said she doesn't believe in Jesus. What do I do? And I just sat down and we talked about praying. I think this is kind of where I shared with her. We talked about praying. We talked about just that you're going to have to just like live in a way that shows her why. Love her in a way that Jesus would love her, and be in prayer with her. Yeah. Because you're not going to be able to force it. And I think that was the gist of it. But it opened up this conversation all because of Creflo Dollar. And so Jesus can use anything to make somebody. And that's what I would tell this parent, don't underestimate what Jesus can do how he can reach people. Don't underestimate it.
Yep.
Yeah, and depending on the age of the children, it's pretty common. That happens a lot, right? Where they slip out.
100%.
Especially they get 16, 17,
100%.
20s.
100%. Not everybody goes helter-skelter.
Yeah. Find their way back. Right? When they have their own children, a lot of times
it does. 100%. That's a big pull.
That is a good pull.
That's a big pull.
So, hopefully it's just temporary.
I'm also a once saved, always saved kind of guy. So I don't think you can be pulled out of the hands of Jesus. So that's, you got to live in a little bit of that,
too. A lot going on in the world.
Yeah.
Well, listen, this was, again, Jason.
No, thank you guys.
Thank you, brother, man. You did a great job.
Three Jasons in one B.
I know it. I really enjoyed it. This is the part I like to say, listen up, kids. Listen up, kids. I don't know where you are in your walk in faith. And I know that you may not have a helter-skelter kind of story, and then from what I like to call helter-skelter to hope, like my friend Jason did. But one thing I know is you can pour into others. The best work you will do is pouring into others. And whether you are sober or not, that is going to provide you so much happiness in life. Jesus said it himself, it is better to give than receive. Others before self, you will never, ever go wrong. And I believe you will live a more fulfilled life. But hey, what the hell do I know?
What the hell do I know? I'm just JB, middle-aged dad with ADD. Candid combos, jokes so lame, jabronis pulling a poker face. Just a couple of dudes with ADD. What the hell do I know? With JB.